Farm for Profit Podcast. Take a listen, have a blast. Farm for Profit Podcast. Learn about farming while having a laugh. Farm for Profit Podcast.
And listeners, welcome back to the Farm for Profit Podcast. This is Tanner.
Corey's here.
That's great.
It is.
Is it? You
I
seem
hope I can stay here.
apprehensive.
Well, my stomach maybe doesn't feel so well from that food we ate on the way here. So
Already?
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
man. I might have to host this one by myself. Dave's off on a beach.
Yeah, screw him.
Dave
He go on vacation.
might have the better end of the gig there.
What
but
vacation is this? Like 9 for the year for him?
hey, more power to him, right?
Yeah, it is.
That's the power of farming for more profit.
I guess. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
It all goes to Dave.
Or he knows exactly what his expenses are and knows that the year end is near and needs another write-off. Has
Yeah.
a business meeting.
He's got it is a business meeting in Orlando, Florida.
Yeah. Well, listeners, we appreciate you. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you've got a topic for us or a beach that we should go see, you should reach out to farmforprofitllc@gmail.com. Got a text message on our text line last night, 515-207-9640. It was a gentleman from North Dakota, and it was blowing out of the northwest yesterday, so I told him to shut your back door. I
Yeah.
don't need the wind and the cold as far as that goes. It was fun to interact there. Lots of suggestions for shows. We appreciate that. It's going to lead to a pretty good 2025.
Yeah. Probably not much for beaches up there in North Dakota right now that you'd
No.
want to visit.
No, not a ton in North Carolina.
Yeah.
That's absolutely correct.
No,
But
North Dakota.
oh,
North Carolina.
there are some beaches. I already got my brain
Wow.
on where I want to go.
Okay. All right.
Have you been to North Carolina?
Just the airport.
Mm.
Is that Charlotte?
Yeah.
That's the only time I've been there. So I know I don't consider that me being in North Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's fair. Anything else for listeners before we jump into the topic today?
I don't think so. Besides that, this is just another one of those shows that, to me, is an extremely boring topic, but very
Wow.
necessary.
What a great way to lead.
We're here to bring value to your farm. This is not one of the things
We're
that
gonna
I
make it
consider
fun.
fun. So
This-
we're going to try.
This should be fun by the end of this.
Yeah, we're going to try.
Should be a lot more fun than what you have been having.
Yep.
Well, we get to introduce you to a new friend of ours. We got to have a conversation with him the other day where he was trying to be extremely helpful with his limited abilities due to our local small town banks.
Yep.
He is currently recording this episode sitting on the median of the street. So if you do hear car horns, they're just honking at the sign that says honk if you love farm for profit.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Well, Eric, welcome to the podcast. Let's get a full introduction from you. Tell us what your name is, the company you work for, and then we'll dive into a little bit of your background.
Yeah, hey, my name's Eric Jasinski. I work here at Ambrook. We are a farm bookkeeping platform, financial management platform, and I work on the product team, work with our customers, and I like highways.
And I like highways.
Where are you at right now?
We have one office of ours that is in Manhattan, and that's where I'm sitting from. And then we have another office in Denver. And then we've got some folks sprinkled all over from California down to, the bottom of California. Other parts of California.
Answer this question honestly. Have you built the type of operation and lifestyle that you would actually want your kids to come back to? Now, for a lot of you, if you are being honest with this question here, the answer is going to be no, right? And I don't say that based off of zero data. We've had hundreds of family farm operations come into legacy farmer over the years looking to solve this problem because they've spent their lifetime building out this operation. They want to carry on the legacy into the next generation, but it's created such a chaotic lifestyle that they're not sure how to get things structured and organized so that they're passing on something that isn't just debt and disorganization to the next generation, but something that's organized, structured, and ultimately profitable as well. Now, we've seen this time and time again, working with hundreds of family farm operations over the past 5 years inside a legacy farmer. And this is a big problem that people are trying to solve. And this is one that we have built out a proven process working with those families to take them from a place of chaos and disorganization financially to a place of confidence and clarity, which is only going to help them in every area of life and ultimately build the operation and the lifestyle that they would be proud to have their kids come back to. If you want to learn more about that process and you're struggling with these problems and you want to get them solved, go to legacyfarmer.com and sign up for a free call with our team today.
So when we talked earlier this week, were you in Denver?
No, I was in California, actually. I was visiting some colleagues up in San Francisco.
Yeah, that looked not Manhattanish.
Wow.
No. What gave it away?
The natural windows?
That was the sirens that were missing. It's too quiet up there.
Yes.
So you are in all of these places that there's not a lot of ag, that I would say, or that I typically associate with ag. So how does that come into, how does Ambrook come into play into ag?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, the thing about working in ag for us anyways is like, if you're really working in ag at large, you're kind of going to be a little bit of everywhere. And so sometimes it's actually more useful to be near an airport so you can like get out to people, visit them. We've got folks down in Texas, we've got folks in California, we've got folks in Florida, and we try as often as we can to get and visit them. And so that's kind of like how I think about it anyways. Definitely makes some sense. Before I was at Ambrook, I used to work in ag out in California, up near Palmdale, a little outside of LA. And so definitely spent some time out there on the farm. But these days I got folks back in New York. And so I found myself coming home, but just this way, and feel fortunate to get to, still stay in the industry, but sort of spread my wings.
And you're not kidding. We're getting the full New York experience.
I do. I feel like I'm there with you.
It's almost like an ambiance. Like this is just a background that we're playing because you're from New York.
That's really what it is. Our audio tech is top notch.
Yeah.
This is just all inserted in itself. So,
wow, man, let this go by. Whatever is coming by.
I thought if there was going to be a fire nearby, it was going to be a bit of an issue.
Does Manhattan have a lot of fires?
I don't know. There's a lot of sirens though.
So as far as young Eric goes, tell us a little bit about your background. Were you a farm kid, or what's your background?
No, I was not a farm kid. I grew up outside New York as well, and the way I got into ag was actually a little bit backwards. I used to work in finance, sort of like budgeting, forecasting, operations, spreadsheets in the cannabis industry, actually, starting in 2017. And so did that for a while. And then basically what happened was I was making all of these budgets for all of these farms that we worked with. And eventually I was like, damn, I got to figure out why we're not hitting the budgets that I'm making. And so I went out to the farm in California and spent about 3 years working in a greenhouse out there. So going to the office day to day. I mean, it's not, I say farm, maybe I'm being a little charitable, but there's a greenhouse, there's water, there's nutrients. We're doing a lot of trimming and plant caretaking and stuff like that. And so, that's how I got into it. And basically doing everything I do at Ambrook except for one operation back then. And a couple of years ago, I decided I wanted to do it for other farms too. And here we are.
Wow.
So you got into ag that way, but on my sheet, it also says that you went to film school, which seems to be, now you're in finance, which seems to be the complete opposite of what you went to school for there. Talk to us about that.
Yeah. I mean, I went to a school that has a film program is what I would say. And I think, spent some time in the spreadsheets, and then I found out there were these classes you could take to watch movies, and I signed up for those, and turned out pretty good. And then they gave me a diploma, and it said film on the bottom. And next thing you know, you went to film school. I think that gets everyone likes movies, right? So it's been a blessing.
I want to go to film school. Can you make me a diploma?
You just got to watch
probably help us. We would have better quality.
3 movies a week, and you're going to get a diploma sent to you in the mail.
3 movies a week.
Yeah, that's all.
That's actually kind of hard. I mean, planting season might be all right if I throw the iPad
you have to
out.
watch 3 movies a week? Is that like a red box thing? What do they even send them
Do
to?
they
you
even
now?
have Redbox anymore?
I think they went under.
Like Blockbuster?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Kind of sad.
It is. It is. I was just scrolling TV the other night, and I was looking through all the apps, and you go into one app, and you're like, I don't want to watch anything there. You go to another app, like, man, it used to be a lot easier to try and find something on TV.
Yeah. Pretty soon you got $200 wrapped up in all these subscriptions that you cut cable to go to these smaller subscriptions.
Do you know what, though? I bet you Ambrook would help notify you, or at least provide you the opportunity of understanding if you have subscriptions out there that you didn't realize you had.
I could see
It's a good
that.
dovetail.
Yes. Okay, so we learned a little bit about you. We'll come back to probably some more of that later. But now tell us what Ambrook actually does.
Yeah, so Ambrook makes software that is bookkeeping and accounting software, specifically designed for farms, or I guess the ag industry in general. So farms, ranches, veggie, CSA type operations, you name it. But basically trying to design something to help you track your expenses and look at your profitability at the sort of whole enterprise level. Ambrook started back in 2020, actually, right around COVID. Backstory was trying to help farmers get grants from the CFAP program during COVID, and did a lot of that, facilitated probably upwards of 1,000 grant applications for small farms trying to get by during that time. And then the sort of key takeaway there was that turns out applying for grants is actually a lot of paperwork, and turns out that farmers hate paperwork and don't really want to pull together a P&L and don't really have a balance sheet handy. And so sort of once that job was done, the next thing to do was really just build financial management software and sort of take a bottoms up approach. So get your expenses, we'll get your bills, we'll get your invoices, get it all one place, and then help you sort of figure it out and figure out what subscriptions you got, figure out how much supplies you're buying, and sort of make a plan from there.
So at this point, Corey, on your farm, how do you track your expenses?
So I was going to go into that, and I feel like a major hypocrite because I'm on the Farm for Profit podcast, and we are always preaching that you need to run your farm like a business and do all this stuff that businesses do. And I am probably one of the worst.
So you just farm for fun?
I am a farm for fun type of guy. That's why I like the Farm for Fun shows. But the way I described it on our call earlier with Eric, he was walking us through this stuff, is my process is a dumpster fire.
Oh, like the sirens they might be going to put out.
Yeah, exactly. That's why the sirens are going. And I just had a spreadsheet is all I used. Now, I will preface that I myself am a small farm, and then my dad and what I am an employee of, Hillable Family Farms, is a little bit larger. So I'm not talking on that side of things is ran very well. I'm transitioning into that, but that's why I need a company like Ambrook, because I think a lot of farmers use QuickBooks. I don't know, 20-30% from what it seems like when I talk to farmers, but it's not set up for agriculture and Schedule F. So that's why we're here to talk to these guys to hopefully make things nicer, because the stuff that my dad is using, although it is very good and effective, I can't stand it because it feels like it came off a floppy disk.
I still remember the software that my parents used, and it was the green letters and numbers on a black screen.
Oh.
And then they upgraded, and it was like gray with lighter gray cells.
Yeah.
It was literally like you couldn't use your mouse anywhere. Everything you had to use a tab key. So that's how I first started using that. You're tap, 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 tap,
then you
tap,
got to go to like coding school just to figure out how to get through it and insert your name,
So Eric, you probably have the statistics. What is the makeup currently now of agriculture, and what programs or processes that they're using? Are a lot of people pen and paper, Excel? What's it look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't have the exact statistics next to me, but I think like you look at farming in America, it's majority small farms. Like the most folks are sort of under a certain size and under a certain revenue threshold. I think like within there, it could even be 50-50, like pen, paper, or spreadsheets, which I kind of lump into one category, or software, QuickBooks, Xero, Quicken, just to name drop a couple of folks that we definitely, see folks transitioning over from. And then I think you do have a lot of the sort of power law. You got farms using NetSuite, like Granular, maybe on the row crop side, and some of these more like enterprise solutions. And I think the way that we think about it is, I often think, honestly, I think about our competition is really spreadsheets sometimes, because spreadsheets are good and they do a lot of things. And I think if you can make a software that sort of like can make you feel like you're using a spreadsheet in terms of approachability and like how dynamic it is and how customizable it is, that's a huge win for us. And then like Corey was saying, like, I think when you look at a farm, most big farms' secret is they probably started as a small farm, right? And so like you got to start somewhere. You got to build a habit. You got to have a track record, and sort of as you're growing and thinking about growing, you want to have some source of truth that you're looking at. What did I do last year? What were my ratios? Where am I losing money? Things like that. And so, yeah, I think like in general, we're definitely seeing like a large percentage of farmers on a number basis are on like, be it that intro QuickBooks program or be it that spreadsheet. And those are the folks that we're just trying to make, we're trying to make Corey have more fun when he does podcasts about bookkeeping.
Yeah. And I think what you could also see in ag is there's a lot of companies that are doing pretty good job at your agronomy side, and even like John Deere Ops, and like they're starting to integrate a lot of, I'm going to say, QuickBooks-esque easiness to your agronomy, and even has a financing side to it, but none of it is tailored towards really helping you with your taxes that you can take to your CPA. It has some aspects of it. It's just, so it's like, that's what really is kind of irks me. It's like I feel like we've got the stuff at our fingertips. It's just not quite been made readily available to take to your CPA.
Yeah, I know. And when we've had conversations on the podcast before, QuickBooks can be pretty overwhelming. That's what we run Farm for Profits books through, right? So I've got experience in QuickBooks. Corey and I have an entity that we share together that is ran through an Excel spreadsheet, right? It's not a super complicated one. So I think our listeners are going to relate with a lot of things that we get to talk about here over the next little bit. But if we are a farm that's using QuickBooks, why would we want to switch to Ambrook?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I've onboarded a lot of customers. That's one of the things I do. And I've sort of, a lot of that conversation at the beginning is like, what are you doing today? What are we bringing over? Sort of what you do in the past. And I think a lot of folks use QuickBooks or whatever it is because they know that they should be doing something, right? And they've used it. They've got a history with it, but that doesn't necessarily mean they have a good history with it, right? Like they still have that, that income is just sales of product income. Don't really know what product, don't really know how you sold it. And they've got 5 years worth of sales of product income. And so I think when folks come over to Ambrook, it is both a chance to use software that like builds better habits, and B, almost like a chance to rethink what you've been doing in the past. Like maybe you've got experience like using QuickBooks, quote unquote, right? But you haven't actually been like using it to improve your situation or better understand where you're at. And you're kind of like checking the box. And I think like a lot of our goals are to like turn the whole habit and turn the whole process into something that's relatable and something that is empowering, and basically like something that hopefully you enjoy doing. And like, I sort of say that as somebody who likes doing this stuff. And so I get it. don't get too mad. But at the same time, like that is sort of the, if we're really doing our job right, that's what's happening.
So I hate to say it, but I actually did enjoy sitting down the other night. And I don't know if it's just because it was something new, but I put in one of my credit cards into your guys' system, and it brought all of my purchases for the whole year. And that process of what I did, I had everything sorted out, divvied out to what buckets it went to and all that, probably in an hour or two. And I think that would have taken me, probably by the time I procrastinated and swiped through TikTok and all that, printed off all my sheets and went through that, went to my banking statement, it would have taken me all day. I know it would have.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I'm definitely, obviously our listeners know that that's my financial mind and background. I'm definitely that guy that'll go into QuickBooks and I'll get all of my monthly, expenses categorized, and I'll make sure that the deposits line up with the invoices. But then I spend another 30 to 45 minutes just geeking out at the reports. What's my P&L look like? Okay, what's the margin on our ad sales? Where are we, looking at our percentage of projected net revenue? I love that kind of stuff. And I'm glad that Corey already went through, like, he can tell now how much you spend on fuel, and what you're spending on. We keep joking about subscriptions, because isn't that what you hear all the time is, hey, sign up for this app and it'll tell you we don't need that, right? We're going to have Ambrook. we don't need these other platforms because we can categorize and put everything together. So I want to talk about that. Eric said he does onboarding and does a lot of onboarding for Ambrook.
Yep.
And that's technically what he did with you earlier this week.
Yeah. I would say probably a condensed version because we just got to the point of bringing your accounts in, your bank accounts, credit cards, things of that nature. And that's probably about as far as I got. And that's really all the further I was wanting to go because I'm preparing for the end of the year. Mm-hmm. I am interested in the rest of it, but they have a billing system, an invoicing system, all the charts and everything, performance-wise that you were talking about. I'll get into those more, but I got to get all this other stuff done since I'm late to the game.
So, Eric, what's that look like? A normal onboarding meeting with Ambrook?
Yeah, well, as you might imagine, some of that has to do with the time of year. And so if it's that time of year, you got a year's worth of books to catch up on, and you're ready to commit to the system, it looks a little bit more like Corey's. What we're going to focus on is getting transactions in and sort of backfilling and getting the chart of account set up. But all that stuff's standard. So, fast forward, let's pretend it's January and you were ready to close up books in one place and I just start fresh. A lot of the things we would focus on, a lot of the same things as far as categories and enterprises, which I'm happy to talk about that a little bit more. But and it's a conversation about what is your business, what do you care about? In an ideal world, what are you tracking? And maybe your answer is just taxes, but maybe it's not, or maybe it's I just do taxes today, but I actually want to know field profitability tomorrow or something like that. And so that's kind of I think the big difference. It's all about how you get started, right? And so if you get started with a structure that's going to work for you and you can buy into, then, you put in that work over a year and you're going to come out the other side feeling better and having analytics that maybe you didn't even think you'd be able to get if somebody hadn't talked to you about it and sort of shown you the end state before you get there. So honestly, it's a conversation. We say, how do you make money? Where do you sell? Are you invoicing? Is it all checks? Do you have prepaid stuff? What does that balance sheet side look like? And just really peeling back the onion and trying to figure out where the opportunities are to give you insights that you didn't have. And I say all that with the caveat that you can just be income, expense, tax, done. And that's sure. Also a totally acceptable solution.
Yeah. And I got to sit in on this onboarding call. I was waiting for Corey to kick me off and he didn't. But what I was noticing is the difference because like I said, I'm a QuickBooks user. I don't mean to keep bringing them up, but this I can tell is a better fit for a farm background because just like you were saying, the categories that you were talking about, the enterprising like you were talking about. I mean, for you listeners, what he means by enterprises is most operations are not just Corey Hillebo Farms.
Right.
Most operations have a holding company for the real estate that they own. And then they have maybe an LLC for the custom work that they do, whether it's livestock or fertilizer spreading or trucking. Yeah. Or they've got an LLC that is the actual operating entity, or that's a sole proprietorship, or whatever it looks like. And what Eric was able to very easily do with Corey is, oh, you've got all these? This is how it folds up into one.
Yeah. Basically, farming is a big habit, or not a habit. It's a bad habit in some cases of. I think we're one of the only industries that we want to farm so bad that we have to have all these other entities and jobs. So maybe you go cut lawns, or maybe you push snow in the winter, or maybe you go in town and just get a wage.
That's right. You talked about W-2 income.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I have all of that. We've all got this sickness that we want to farm so bad that it's just not as straightforward. Whereas a spreadsheet probably would be just okay if it was just you were a corn and soybean farmer and you have your inputs and going out and income, you're selling grain coming in. But it's not that easy.
So I hinted on the enterprises there, Eric, if you want to expand on that, but I also want you to talk about the categories.
Yeah, I mean, well, two things come to mind. I think like you're talking about within a farm, it's I'm row cropping, I have this extra equipment, I'm going to do some custom work. And I want to be able to say, all right, how much is my farm making? I know I can cash flow all these other ways, but I want to know what is the actual farm product margin? And so, that's one way to think about it. I do think something that you just said that reminded me of it. We onboard a ton of farms, we get to know them, we talk about their stuff, and then you find out, oh wait, you're a farm, but you are a trucking company, or you are a hospitality company, or something like that, right? And then that's the nice thing is so we have categories. Categories are what we call incomes and expenses in Ambrook. And so, yeah, I'll get you set up with cold cow sales, red cow sales, elevator sales, whatever it may be. And then if you want to go have rentals, property income, and property insurance and property taxes as categories, like we're not quite so one dimensional that we can't figure out what some good categories might be. I think that's like the nice thing about building bookkeeping software is like this is like a law of physics type thing. Like it's going to apply to your other situations. And so that's a lot of the category discovery process. And then, like we talked about a little bit setting you up. So we got farm categories and we can map those to a Schedule F, right? And so a lot of folks maybe, Tanner, you probably know this, like when you're underwriting a loan or something, you'll say, hey, let me get 3 years of your Schedule F. And that's 32 boxes, whatever it may be. And there's a model and it can give you a credit score and do all that stuff. Great. But like that might not be enough for you, right? Like we're trying to fit square pegs into round holes here. And so with Ambrook, you can both run your business with the categories that you actually need, get that Schedule F box filled out, and something that you didn't see because it didn't come up is like we do the same thing with Schedule C. So it's like I have a farm enterprise here. Here are my categories. Here's my Schedule F mapping. I run that rental business. Here's my Schedule C mapping, so on and so forth. And that's what we do today because those are sort of the biggest overlaps that we see in the market right now. But the foundation's there. It's easy to imagine additional forms, additional mappings, and things like that.
So you said this is mapping to the schedules. Mm-hmm. You're not saying that Ambrook is going to prepare the tax return for me, though.
No, we do not do that. The way we think about it is like if you think about maybe a typical meeting with a CPA or the way you're prepping for the year, like maybe it's 3 meetings. Like here's my shoebox. Okay, here, let me answer all these questions you have about my shoebox. Third meeting's like, okay, here's your filings. Maybe we can cut a meeting down or something and, knock a little hours off the bill or something like that. Save some back and forth. Just one of the ways we think about it.
So another thing I witnessed while I was half listening to your onboarding call is, Eric, you also mentioned something about being able to establish field boundaries. Can we actually track field level profitability in this too?
Yeah. So what it doesn't mean is like, I'm not going to geofence it like Google Maps sort of set it up that way, but you have an enterprise tag. We talk about tags as like different ways you might want to cut your data, and location is a thing that we support. And so you can tell us about your field, tell us how many acres it is. You can put an address in. We're not going to do anything with it, but it's just maybe if you forget, you can just check Ambrook for your directions or something like that. Sort of, I think a lot of that comes back down to benchmarking too. So you can establish a field, you can tell us about a location, and you can allocate income to that field. You can allocate expense to that field. We make it really easy to split like a utility bill or a water bill across the field. And then the last thing you can do in addition to telling us acreage is tell us output. So you can be like field A, acres X, bushels Y or something like that, right? And what that's going to do is get you a benchmark for how many dollars do I have to spend to grow a bushel per acre I want to maintain. And so then you're thinking about leasing a new land or something like that. And you think about what's my carrying capacity? Like, what can I afford? How much money do I have? What are my next steps? And so like having the ability to say, this is my per acre, per location type of profitability is like really the first step in starting to think about that decision.
Very interesting. So we had our onboarding, and a lot of farms are in rural areas and we use small banks. And one of the, not your guys' fault, but one of the issues that we did have was my bank did not like the third-party source that you used to input that.
Because that's handy.
Right. Because at that point it makes it living and breathing.
Yeah, it just imports, because you tried other things.
Yeah.
And it imported directly in,
mm-hmm.
right? Like you said, your credit card. You're able to go through everything on your credit card.
Yeah, my Chase credit card right to, almost like it was their website, went really well. And so I don't know. I mean, I could still go download my CSV file from my bank and upload it, and it worked great. It came in seamlessly, and I've got it up right now with all my expenses.
Oh, let me look.
And debits and credits. But it's not your guys' deal, but how do we get some of these, smaller banks to come on board with it? Because I appreciate it if it's an extra layer of security. I'm not a fan of it if they just go, nah, sorry, you're out of luck.
No, totally. I think like, listen, if I could snap a finger and have every bank in the world do an automatic sync, that would be great.
Yep.
And then a bunch of people would just be, saving one step on their bookkeeping. I think to your point, like with regards to the transaction import, going to try to make that as seamless as possible. And like back to your other question, call your bank, tell them you want to use Ambrook, and we'll be happy to get on the phone with them, and we'll work it out with their team directly if we have to. Like we would be all the happier to do that. But obviously there's a lot of banks in the world, and it's going to take a lot of phone calls to do something like that. So we do have the transaction import, which is good. If you do it once a month, you can split the workload up, and like you got a whole year done in an hour. And so you can imagine maybe if that was a smaller bite-sized thing. And then we have other ways that some folks like to go about it. I think like the interesting thing when you're coming off of pen and paper is like some folks are used to writing down in their checkbook like check X for this purchase, right? And like if we can just change that habit and have your register be on Ambrook, you're getting the same input, but you're getting output that lasts and can be reviewed later. Or, maybe you just want to snap a picture of a receipt and have a transaction generated from that receipt. You get two birds with one stone. And so, listen, every bank in the world would be great. In the meantime, we're basically just trying to make sure that there are as many ways to get that data in and, have that for reference later as we can think of.
Are you ready to power through your harvest? Meet the Maya Cornheads. They're designed for maximum efficiency and unmatched durability in the toughest of conditions.
With precision engineering and advanced features, Maya Cornheads ensures every kernel counts, giving you the performance and reliability that you need. Get more from your harvest with equipment built to last.
Reach out to your local Maya Cornheads dealer or visit mayacornheads.com to find your perfect match today. Maya Cornheads, harvest with confidence.
What do you think, Tanner, was their concern with it? Because the third party is well known. Everyone's heard of it. I mean,
I would say probably the only level of concern is there's probably just limited knowledge within these small banks.
Yeah.
Like the compliance team or the IT team that is running these small banks is probably relying on third-party vendors that are IT consultants. And it's just a lack of knowledge. And there's so much going on with the demand for small banks to have online bankings that are smooth, to be able to offer businesses ACH sending and wire initiated. It's more probably a staffing issue would be my guess, like a lack of knowledge, than it is a fear for security.
Okay. I mean,
because ultimately if you get audited as a bank,
that
a bank gets audited all across the board. They get audited for their financials, but then they also audit loan portfolios for risk. They audit securities and investments for risk. They audit compliance teams for making sure that they're adhering to the regulations. They audit the IT department for safety and all these audits that go into place. And if you don't have somebody on the team that can stand up to an auditor and explain why this is safe or why it's in compliance, then you probably just say, no, I'm not going to deal with it.
Yeah. One thing that I was kind of thinking in the back of my mind as I was going through and connecting my bank account and my credit cards and all that, I'm like, boy, I'm putting a lot of my information out here to my life, right? And farmers, as much as anybody, care about their data, right? We got agronomy data, we got yield data, we got application data, a lot of stuff. Now we have financing data. Is there any merit to my concern of where my data is going? Is it getting sold off somewhere? I mean, I already know like our credit cards are selling our stuff off, right? Because as soon as you buy a Lululemon deal for your wife, I mean, you got an ad that pops up on Facebook. So,
no, totally. I think like at the end of the day, like we don't make money from data. We make money from users having a good time. So like having a better experience analyzing their business. And so, your data is on Ambrook for your access and for your convenience. And you pay us money for us to provide a place where you can see that data. And, we have a wallet product where we get yield if you hold a deposit with us, and we share that yield back with you, by the way, if you use that product. So we don't sell data, because that's just not what we do. We're not in the business. We're sort of in the trust business, and we're in the help business, and we're not really in the benchmarking, selling stuff type of business. And we do actually work with a nonprofit called Ag Data Transparent, who certifies our use of data every single year. We renew that, basically verifying exactly, the concern you're talking about. Because as you can obviously imagine, with a lot of farmers, this is probably top two things that come up. whenever we speak to somebody.
Well, you have access to a lot of farmers are just very personal, or they don't even want to tell their neighbors,
Right.
What their yield was, let alone here's all of my life.
Totally.
Yeah.
No, I mean, we take that, that's genuinely like a responsibility that we take super seriously, from end to end security all the way through privacy. Like that is 100% what we're built on.
Good.
So your mission is to help American businesses stay independent by building accounting tools that helps farms, ranches, and other industrial operations be more profitable and sustainable. Very well written. But I think you need to make a tweak to it, because I think I've heard him say he wants you to have a good time. He wants you to have fun. He wants to make this more enjoyable. Like, you've got to be the ag accounting software that people enjoy using. And then I think you got to bring back some old timer commercials that are you're just out having a blast and someone's laughing and having a great time. And you look at what they're doing and they're reconciling on Ambrook.
I mean, I will say one of the nice things about working in my capacity anyways is the support side. So you onboard a customer, you take them from like dreading the process to actually enjoying the process. And then they keep you posted. I had a guy write in the other day to our customer support chat, basically saying, "Hey, I don't need anything. I just like this change you made to the menu. Like, thanks, keep up the great work." It's just like a really rewarding message to get from somebody.
Hey, that's like our listeners. When they send us a message like that, they're like, "Hey, just wanted to let you know I still love the podcast." Yeah. Great. Thank you.
That's the best kind of message.
Mom, you don't have to send me that message every week. But you didn't see that one coming, did you?
No. Hey, you're a funny guy.
No. Rachel said she was laughing hysterically earlier. Just that funny. But you brought up a good point when you were talking about what happens after the onboarding. What does that look? Is there support for a listener if they sign up and you get past onboarding? Yeah,
I mean, that's something we pride ourselves on, and we have staff like myself that are fully dedicated to being around. I make the joke that there's some bookkeeping help that goes on there. Sometimes people just want someone to say hi to, like, you got another human on the other end of the line. But a lot of the things that help build habits, especially call it first 6 months, right, is like, hey, I know you told me how to do this thing on the onboarding call. I forgot. Like, what do I do about this bill? How do I, match this payment? And I think, like, without having just like that, knowing that you have that in your back pocket from a helpfulness perspective, like, it would be much harder to build the habit, and you might not. So, like, that's definitely a part of the experience for us. Is like, we're in the empowerment business, first and foremost. And like, honestly, you probably hear less from folks that have been on the platform for 6, 12, 18 months, because they do have a life. And like, at the end of the day, like, they don't really want to talk to me that bad. But for the 6 months that I got them, it's a good time.
I just, can't stop thinking about the marketing that you can do around having a lot of fun and like I said, building those relationships. I think it's neat that there are people seeing enough value in this to where they do still communicate with you. I mean, that does speak a lot to the difference it's providing them, whether they are going pen and paper to this or they're coming out of a more complicated software. It can get overwhelming really fast. Very much so. You remember those letters to the editor, like be like lost in San Francisco, and they write a letter about how would you have handled this situation? Yeah. Just be lost in numbers, and you just write to Ambrook, and they provide you the answers.
Ambrook, farm finances that don't suck.
Farm finances for fun.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and seriousness, serious business
with a number 4, because we know that's the best market.
Right? Yeah, right. So you guys, you mentioned your wallet, so you can hold funds on Ambrook, and you can get a yield. And obviously there's got to be a reason you're holding funds there. What does that allow you to do?
Yeah. So one of the things, like to your point about the bank, for example, right? Like, some banks don't offer automatic syncing, but you have a bunch of card transactions. So what we decided was, all right, having a business cash account that you can use for things like receiving invoice payments or paying your bills with ACHs or mailed check, or having a debit secured card that you use, or you have farmhands that you use, or maybe you just want to split out the personal from the business expenses. We basically have like all of these banking style services that we offer on Ambrook, with the main goal of helping you keep everything consolidated. So it's like, say you send an invoice out and you receive a payment on that invoice. Today that payment might hit your bank account. You got to find that thing in your bank account, find the invoice, sync it up. It adds steps. And if you don't do it over a couple months, then you're trying to remember which payments go to which invoices. And next thing you know, you're double counting income or something like that, which obviously you don't want to do. And so if you do all of that on Ambrook, like the matching happens for you, the deposits get reconciled. And like it kind of, again, it's like reducing friction and making things feel better. And so that's why we offer those things. They're not mandatory to use, but basically like the longer you're with us, the more you find you're like, well, I'm already on here anyways. Like, why would I not send a mailed check through Ambrook? That doesn't, that type of a thing.
Now, are those add-ons extra cost? Because we haven't talked about how Ambrook bills or how that fee goes. So can you walk us through that?
Yeah. So Ambrook, as a headline, is base subscription fee. We have 2 tiers, $60 and $100 a month. So that's $1,200, $720 annual. You can get a 10% discount on both of those if you sign up for the year. So 54, I'm good at math, 54, 1080 from a subscription fee. And that is basically all the fees that we make money on from a customer. The other fee on the platform that is often discussed is the invoicing fee. And so, you send an invoice, your customer pays you with an ACH or a card. There's a payment processing fee. There's 0.4% with a cap on ACH. There's credit card fees, et cetera. We pass those on to the customers. We do not keep those. And so some folks choose to pass them along. Some folks for a convenience fee to their customers, stuff like that. And then no fees on the bill pay today, and no fees for the cards. And so basically, like, yeah, that's the whole structure. And then I guess on the opposite end of the spectrum, like I mentioned, for folks that are using Ambrook to hold funds, we have a 1% yield that we started rolling out actually last week. And so, we basically, it's like a cashback program for your deposits. You can think about it like a high yield checking account. So you get the sort of like 1% savings of a savings type account, but all the functionality of an operating account. And so we do, we make yield on that, but we share it back to the customers. So actually, the opposite of that.
Very cool. That is handy. I mean, I can see that, right, through the invoicing process, and I can already see the applications that there's probably a lot of our listeners out there that are just like a lot of us here. And what happens is you end up going out and bailing those corn stalks, and you know what the guy owes you, you know what your neighbor owes you, and you don't really get around to doing it. And now it's the end of the year, and he's asking you for an invoice, and you don't have time to go make an invoice. That if it was a smoother process, you'd probably run it more like a business.
Yeah.
Get done with it.
Yeah.
You go home, sit in your computer, knock it out.
And I didn't know, actually, it's funny you say that. The thing I haven't mentioned is we do have a mobile app. It's included for all the tiers of the product. And so you can send that invoice from the go. You can use it on cell. You don't need to be connected to Wi-Fi. And so that's something that we've got built out. And yeah, so being in the field is no excuse not to get your money.
What is that app called? Because I looked for it the other day. I didn't see it.
It's called Ambrook. Right now, we basically have it. There's this app called Test Flight, which is basically a sort of gating app that we use to only let Ambrook members download it. So you sign up for Ambrook, we send you a code, and you download it. It's available on the Android store, but Apple's got policies and things that it's just like a little easier for us to keep it private through that.
So I need to request.
But I'll send you a link because you are a freshly onboarded customer, and so getting you onto that app is my job.
There we go. I mean, I did look for it.
All right. So are you enjoying this conversation?
I am.
Is it making you nervous?
No.
So why have you colored all over your knuckle?
Did I? Oh, I didn't. I must put my hand down on the paper of the ink.
To me, it's like, oh gosh, I hate
No,
numbers
I did not
so
do that.
much. I don't. This is stressing me out.
That is weird. I think I set my wheel down on the ink on the paper.
Uh-huh. We're gonna review the footage.
Yeah, you can review it. Throw your challenge flag.
Yes.
You'll find that I did not physically do that to myself.
No, I mean, Eric, I appreciate you helping us talk through a topic that some don't enjoy. And the whole reason we wanted to share this with our audience is this is meant to make it more enjoyable. You know, one of the tricks I used to tell my customers is I said, you got to make it a reward that if you're going to sit down and you do something, then after that you get to have a glass of bourbon or, you know, a ice cream sundae or whatever it is that sits down. I think that's what you should do, Corey, is
Maybe.
it's not going to take you near as long to wait for the bourbon. And maybe you could even drink the bourbon while you're doing it because it's so
There you
much
go.
easier.
Yeah. Software, farm financing, so easy that Corey could do it.
Really? We
Like
got
the
you.
caveman could do it.
Yeah, we're going to
Yeah.
have a poster with Corey on there. It's
Yeah.
so easy, I could do it.
Yeah. I do have a question on, so a lot of the stuff we've talked about is focused around Schedule F farm income. Is there much of a personal or the QuickBooks side of the financing? I mean, I'm just coming across like
sorry.
medical expenses and, you know, stuff my wife buys or whatever that it needs to go somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like a lot of farms have that mix. Like, honestly, when I get a customer and they're like, "Hey, I have a separate business account," I'm like, "All right, great, you can already start, and that's easier." But it's kind of like I was talking about with trucking, with hospitality. Like at the end of the day, you know, your categories it is an accounting software first and foremost, right? And so we have a bunch of things that are make farming easier, and then a bunch of things that you can, you know, as creative as you want to get. You know, it's just like going to film school. You can get clever with your books and have your groceries, your medical, you know, your clothing budget, whatever. And basically, you just put that in that part of the P&L that is below that operating income. It's there. It's part of the balance sheet, but your accountant will ignore it. It won't roll up to your Schedule F.
Yep.
And you can feel good about that too.
Yeah. That's something I'm actually excited about because it's a lot of times something that I've pushed off to the side. Like I'm going to do my farm stuff, but there's a lot of things that, you know, I office out of home, right? It's 25% of the house, according to the square footage. And
You must office out of the basement.
Yeah, the whole basement. So it should be half, really. But
So you can get that rent expense. You get it every month, and you can sit there and be like, all right, you know, August I spent 75% of my time at home, 75% deductible rent, 25% person rent, and you can just make that. You can flex it however you see fit.
Yep. So that's what I'm excited about because I've usually just ignored a lot of that stuff, just because I have a tough enough time getting everything else that I need to done. So. Yep, got got daycare expenses, you know, all that kind of stuff. That there's a lot.
You may be able to do itemized deductions instead of the standard deduction,
Maybe,
based upon what you track.
maybe.
Yeah,
There is power in knowing, right, Eric?
totally. Yeah, I mean, I think that like, I mean, you know, I joke a little bit about how I want it to be fun and all that stuff, and I think that some of it is just like actually enjoying the habit, right? Some of it's like. It's also fun making more money, right? And it's fun growing and it's fun planning, like how are you going to get bigger? How are you going to sell more stuff? How are you going to get that next plot? And you really can't do that stuff without taking this first step. And so like, you know, once you get that ball rolling, it's a dangerous game. All of a sudden you got expansion plans coming next year and it's a great problem to have.
Yeah.
I do agree with you. The power of knowing is what can make it more fun. Because I think a lot of what makes it not enjoyable for folks is they don't know if they're doing it right or not.
Yeah.
And you even mentioned to Corey, you can establish a category that is ask my accountant.
Yeah.
You know, you don't just because you're going through it, you don't have to know the answer today, but maybe like you said, that shoebox of receipts, the ask my accountant questions is only 10 instead of 110.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, what have we always said that during your week as a farmer, you should spend a couple hours or half a day in the office at least, depending on your business. I think if once you get everything set up and it's living and breathing and you just got to go select what this transaction was for or upload this receipt, I bet you could almost do it on the fly.
Yeah.
From your app or...
Correct. Yep.
Totally.
Yeah. Well, Eric,
and you can set up automations.
Oh, expand upon that.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, if you got one of the nice things about having data is like, you know, I've been seeing that all my Best Buy transactions are personal expense. Like I want all those Best Buys to automatically get tagged, set and forget it. You know, same goes for like your utility bill or maybe your 76 bill or whatever it is. And there's just a number of things where And, we have a button, it's the review button. So like you can filter that app to just see the stuff that you haven't tagged, and you set the automation up and that number is way lower and you're saving time. It's like, we got those 45 transactions done in 2 minutes the other day.
I just tagged and automated my utilities for my house while we were on the earlier on in the show. It took me 30 seconds, and all 12 of those transactions. Yep. I did not have to go click 12 times. I only had to click once. So it was pretty nice.
Great.
Saving time, because time is money. I mean, it's the most valuable asset.
Yep. So Eric, before we let you sign off, what else would you like to share with our audience?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think the thing that I want people to keep in mind is you may think like, oh, I'm a family farm, and kind of whatever those expectations are about like what you should be doing or like what you can be doing. And I think like I've taken for me, I work with a lot of our livestock operators, just as an example, and like it doesn't really matter how big you are. Livestock's not a simple business, right? You've got a multi-year asset cycle. Your inventory is crossing fiscal years, and to plan for those things, right? Like, when am I going to call my cows? When am I going to keep replacement heifers? How does that interplay with the market? You have the chance to take advantage of your situation if you know what to look for. And then, that's the type of stuff that we're trying to focus on. And so I think like, just because maybe you don't have a big staff or like, whatever your sort of mental model is, like you run a complex business, and with that complexity, like there's definitely opportunity. Like, it's not easy, and we want to make sure you can take advantage of it.
So if someone's wanting to give this a try, what is the best process for them to go about it?
Yeah, I would say you can go to ambrook.com. I think that probably we have a pricing page where you can see we have 2 tiers. That $60 tier I mentioned is basically just on invoicing. So if you don't do invoicing, that could be the right tier for you. If you do invoicing or you want to like bring a whole team on, you're going to go to that higher tier package. And I would expect by the time this rolls out, we're going to have 30-day free trials available. And so hop on, get on the platform, get those transactions in and see it for yourself. It's one of those things. I've talked to a lot of people that are thinking about it. And it's really hard to beat just using the thing, and testing it out.
It's perfect. Well, it was a pleasure. One, it was a pleasure getting to meet
Likewise.
you earlier in the week, and to come back and have this conversation with you. I want to know, how fast were the cars that are driving outside the door? Are we talking like 25 mile an hour? Are we talking 50 mile an hour?
The problem is that we're talking like 5 mile an hour with some traffic and some riffraff in front of them. And so that's why you could hear it for so long.
Right. So like they could see this person cutting them off. They aren't going that fast. Do you use the horn a lot when you drive?
No, we're in Iowa. No, we don't use that. That is rude. We would never do
You just use the finger.
When you honk at someone, you might as well tell them, F off. Screw you. I hate your family. Yeah. Yep. That's bad. So I did, while we were sitting here, I did decide that my Spotify premium is education.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's work one way or the other.
Right. Saves me time because I don't have to listen to ads.
It's research.
Yeah. Podcasts are very educational. So
you have to know what the competition's doing as far as podcasts go.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Absolutely.
Makes sense.
You'd be losing money if you didn't listen to us.
That's what I tell people. You'd be losing money if you didn't sign up.
Yeah.
It was Micah that was on the call with us too, right?
That's her.
And she was saying, don't fret over how specific your categories go, because there's only 22 options on a Schedule F. and it's all going to have to fill back into one of those anyway. So don't over stress about it. But again, appreciate your time. Appreciate Ambrook for their support. And we hope you had a good one.
Likewise. Pleasure to meet you guys.
Thanks, listeners. Until next time, you have a good one.